The King. I welcome you tonight to the ancient world of Arabia. There lived a king called Murad. He was the richest king in the world in his times. They would say he used to bury gold in nearby desert and would let his prisoners out in the middle of the day in the intense heat to find trunks of gold. And whoever did would be freed, no matter what the crime. Sadly, mostly died due to the intense heat. He was not the best of kings, but he was extremely protective of his kingdom and his wealth. However, as rich as Murad was, he was never thankful for what he had. He was not happy with his own appearance, and he used to find faults in every little thing he could. But nobody else in the kingdom wanted to tell him this fault of his own, as they were too afraid. His heart was never at peace. One night, Murad went to sleep and had a dream. In that dream, he saw a beautiful tree which had the most pleasant smell from it as it was slowly burning away. It was an oud tree. He saw that this tree was in a faraway land, and he heard a voice in the dream telling him to travel alone if he wanted to feel peace in his life. He woke up the next morning and told his advisors about this dream. They told him to ignore it. But as much as they said to ignore it, Murad knew in his heart that he would travel to the ends of the world to find peace, even if it would mean that he would need to do this alone. He was willing to give up everything he had for that moment of peace in his heart. One night, Murad got on his camel and headed out of his kingdom. He rode for days and nights, and he finally, after many days and many nights, got to the tree on a beautiful moonlit night. It was as beautiful as he had seen in his dream. He took his knife out and started to cut parts of the tree and burn it. The smell was also as pleasant as what he had dreamt of, but it did not give his heart any peace at all. He burned it a little bit more and more until he decided to burn the whole tree down. The smell could be smelled for miles away, but Murad was still not at peace and was still yearning for tranquility in his heart. Murad finally gave up and knew that he will never be at peace. He was beginning to head back to get on his camel when he heard footsteps behind him. They were the thieves of the desert who had smelled the burning of the tree miles away. They were many and he was now surrounded by them. They told him to give them everything he had. He pleaded with them to let him go, and in return, he would fill them with wealth of the likes they have never seen before. He told them that he was a great king. They did not believe him, and nor could they risk of letting him go and being killed as a punishment. They took everything he had, including his water, his camel, and decided to get rid of him. One of the thieves placed an arrow in his bow and pointed towards Murad's heart and let go of the arrow. As Murad saw the arrow leaving the bow, he knew that this was his end. What a terrible life he has lived. But it was too late. It was too late. Murad closed his eyes, welcoming his death with tears. He waited for the arrow to tear his heart into two pieces. He waited and waited, but nothing happened. He started to touch his chest to check if the arrow was through him, but felt nothing. He hesitantly opened his eyes and could not believe what he saw. He was in an old Arabian alleyway in the ancient market of Kalama. His clothes were torn, his sandals worn out. Murad was a beggar, dreaming of being a king. He got up, rushed to the nearest bakery, gave the baker any coins he had gathered for the day, and rushed towards his broken hut, while his tears still flowed behind him as he ran in joy. He pushed through the torn cloth hanging down from his broken hut and saw his family waiting for him. He hugged them suddenly and tightly. They all started to laugh, not knowing what had happened to Murad that day. He told them how much he loved them. They all sat down. He broke the loaf of bread in pieces, passed it around to his family. They all ate it, had some water and dates. When everyone had fallen asleep with full stomachs, Murad finally laid in his bed, looking at the stars through his broken roof, humming the most beautiful Arabic melodies, smiling away, looking at his beautiful family, and telling himself he is wealthier than any king, as he is thankful for what he has, and his heart was finally at peace.